Welcome to Upticks with Jake Falcon, founder and CEO of Falcon Wealth Advisors. In this podcast, we help high net worth individuals overcome financial complexities. We do this by enhancing financial literacy and discussing topics in a language free from industry jargon. Join us as we help explain exactly what having a solid financial plan means, as Jake draws from years of experience in helping hundreds of individuals get financially organized and focused on their goals. We hope you find Upticks educational, entertaining, and shareable. Now, on to the show.
Welcome back to the show. This is episode 231, Retiring in Your 50's. Cory, thank you for joining me back on Upticks.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
And special thank you to Jake Cross and Matthew Tomlin for also joining us. So guys, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Jake. Glad to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, and thank you for pausing some of the episodes here. And for our audience that doesn't know, the reason that Matthew and Jake weren't on the show is that Cory and I were busy cranking out content. As a little teaser here, is that I'm working on writing a book on retirement planning. So I really wanted to focus on getting a lot of my thoughts and Cory's out there. And so that's why, sorry guys, but that's why we kind of benched you for a little bit, but now you're back. So it's exciting. Hopefully that book gets published this year, and it'll be real exciting to share with our clients and the world. But before we begin today's topic, Matthew, we'll start with you. Is there anything new going on in your personal life that you want to share with the millions of people watching this?
Yeah, I would say three quick things. I recently passed all three of the enrolled agent examinations. I'm still waiting on my application to go through. It has to go through the IRS, so I'm sure it'll take quite a bit to put those initials behind my name, EA. But I'm very excited about what it is a tax designation. That just gives me more knowledge to potentially help clients. So I'm very excited about that. Another big item is I'm heading on my bachelor trip next week. So I'm heading down to Austin, Texas. I've never been before, so I'm excited. I'm hanging out with 9 really good friends. And then the last thing is still getting married in March. So we've done all the last minute plannings, and now we're just gearing up for it.
Wow, you got a lot going on.
Yeah, it's been busy since the last time I've been on the show.
Well, congratulations to everything. Congrats on completing all of the exams for your enrolled agent. That's a big deal. So thank you for taking the time. And again, the reason you're doing that is so that we can serve our clients better. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Be careful down in Austin. It's, I went to college in South Texas, so I know Austin very well. 6th Street, 5th Street, 4th Street. There's rivers down there. Be careful. Texas is a whole another animal. They're very proud, but I would encourage you to go to a Whataburger at some point. I'm a huge fan of Whataburger. I really highly recommend that. And also congrats on your wedding. I know I'll be there. It's going to be in Independence. So the founder, or Harry Truman's stomping grounds, right? So that you and Harry Truman are going to be aligned there, and I'll be really excited for you and Jordan.
Yep, right on the Independence Square, right down from his Mr. Truman's house. So it'll be a fun party.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, Jake, I don't know how you're going to beat that, but Jake, what do you got going on?
Yeah, I don't think I will. I don't have as much as Matthew going on right now. Still just loving working for our clients and rooting for the Chiefs. By the time this episode gets put out there, I'm sure hopefully we'll have a Chiefs win, and we'll go from there. But like I said, just enjoying working for our clients.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. Yeah, hopefully, as of the recording of this is before the AFC Championship game. So, Jake, do you have a prediction on that outcome? Do you have a score?
I don't have a score. I'm just going to watch the game, root for the Chiefs, and what happens, happens. I know Mahomes currently has a hurt ankle to some degree, so I don't want to make any excuses, but hopefully that doesn't come into play too much, so we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, they're playing the Bengals. Joe Burrow, man, that guy's no joke. But I feel like the Chiefs, the Bengals have really, of all the teams in the NFL, I feel like the Bengals are the hardest ones for the Chiefs to beat. So maybe it's our turn for the Chiefs to get that big W. And back to the Super Bowl. Wouldn't that be cool? And the Super Bowl is in Vegas? Or
I'm not quite sure.
No, I think it's in Phoenix.
Arizona, yeah.
Yeah, it's in Phoenix. Yes. I feel like it's always in Phoenix. It's almost always in Phoenix. But So good for the Chiefs. Hopefully they get a W and get back to that Super Bowl. Wouldn't it be great if it were the Chiefs Niners again? That'd be kind of fun.
It would be
Get
cool.
some payback there.
Right. Well, we beat the Niners. If you remember, we beat the Niners in the Super
Oh,
Bowl.
I thought they beat us. Well, my bad.
No, we lost to Tom Brady. Isn't that right? We lost to Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So anyway, so Cory, what do you got going on? You got anything to share with the audience?
No, I really don't have anything to top what Matthew said or add on, other than I want to give you a prediction though, Jake. I think the Chiefs are going to win 27-24. It's going to be a close game.
Woo, I love it. All right.
That's
Well, that'll
bold.
be a fun one. In typical Chiefs fashion, I'm expecting a good game, and I'm expecting Mahomes, bum, ankle, and all, to pull it off. That's just what he does. He's a winner. That's what he does. I expect it. I'm excited for it, and I'll be watching at home with Rachel and my favorite pooch, Einstein. So we'll be screaming in our house and watching it together. Now, before I wanted to dive into today's topic, which I think is a very popular topic, and actually the reason we're doing the show on retiring in your 50s is, but back, Cory, when you had your own show, this thing went viral and you had a ton of people watch and listen to this episode. So I thought it'd only be pertinent for us to refresh it and do it again. But I want to explain Matthew and Jake's roles a little bit on the team. So I'm going to share my screen here, if you guys don't mind. I got a new slide here that I wanted to share with our audience that's watching this on YouTube. And if you're listening, that's certainly fine too. Don't feel like you need to see this. But I just wanted to kind of articulate the way that Falcon Wealth Advisors, our firm, has been restructured. And so can you guys see this okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Awesome. So for all of our clients and for our potential clients tuning in, I just wanted to be very clear that it all starts up top, obviously, with the clients that we do work with. Now, typically from that step, you either work with Cory's group or my group. And it's not that Cory and I are in competition with each other. The reality is that when you're dealing with wealth management and financial planning, it's a very personal discussion. It's a very personal relationship. And so in order to achieve that, you do need to have somebody on point with that, or someone taking the lead. And so with my group, I take the lead with all of my clients, and with Cory, his group, he takes the lead. But in an effort to properly serve the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients that we work with, Matthew and Jake joined my group, and they have joined my group as partners on my group. And they're both certified financial planners, and they both meet with clients, both with me and on their own. So if you're a client of Falcon Wealth Advisors and you're only meeting with Matthew Tomlin or Jake Cross, I don't want you to think that you've been handed off or passed off. They're a part of my group. They're an extension of me, and they're helping serve our clients in there. And they'll also attend meetings with me. Same holds true for Cory. Right now, Joe is taking a lot of Cory's meetings with him or on his own. And Tyler, we're getting him trained up to do the same. And then underneath this on this chart is the investment management and operations group. And again, they are collectively serving all of our clients as an ensemble. And so I just thought this was a great visualization, Cory, to show that, hey, if you're in my group and maybe I'm not meeting with you as regularly as we once did, rest assured, I'm still your wealth advisor. What I've done is I've trained up, we've hired Jake and Matthew to help serve as extensions of me and do those check-ins and meetings with clients. And Cory's got Joe doing that with him, and soon, hopefully, to follow Tyler. Did I miss anything there, guys, as far as our structure?
Nope, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think
all right,
good.
good.
Good-looking people there.
It's a good-looking team. We do have a good-looking team. Professional team, hard-working team, and good people. So, okay, but let's get into why people really clicked on this link, is talking about retiring in their 50s. Now, first, I want to get into why people are doing this. And then most importantly, we want to talk about what they need to know to be able to do this. So number one, Cory, and Cory laughed at this last night when we were talking about the show, is that I think that at times people choose to retire in their 50s because the corporate Kool-Aid has turned sour. And there may have been a lot of turnover at their company, and the company's not the same place that they signed up to work at 10, 20, or 30 years ago. And so people are getting fed up. They're asking more from their employees with less pay. They do layoffs. Culture has changed. Leadership has changed. And that Kool-Aid isn't as sweet as it once was. Cory, do you have any comments on this from interactions you've had with clients that choose to retire in their 50s? Why they're doing it?
Sure. I think a lot of people we talk about retirement. We've also used the phrase work optional. I think a lot of people think about, just getting to the work optional phase of their life, and getting there in their 50s is a very, that's an ideal time to get there for a lot of people. But I think, Jake, along with everything that you just highlighted, the one other point that I would add to that is that I just think that people, particularly over the last few years, almost have a newfound lease on life in some ways. And people have sort of, our world has changed a lot in the last few years. And I think people have really started to think about and prioritize what's most important to them. And I think that's another reason for this. But lastly, I think that I always find it interesting, Jake, and you probably do too, if you talk with people that are younger, if somebody's been in the workforce for 10 or 15 years, it's easy to say, oh, I'll work until 60 or 65 or 70. But when somebody reaches 45 or 50 years old, they might not want to work until 65 or 70 if they don't have to. The more proactive people can be in planning ahead of time, the more optionality and flexibility they have in their 50s, which is what we're talking about today.
Yeah, exactly, Cory. It's a good point. And then, with this new gig economy that we talk about, there's a lot of different ways that people can earn income. So they may have $1, $2, $3 million saved up and they're 55 years old, and maybe they just need a little bit of money to bridge that gap, but they don't want to be chained to their desk anymore, or, doing Zoom calls all day long, and they want to be an Uber driver, or they want to work for Postmates, or they want to, create a podcast and monetize it, or they would just want to do consulting or whatever it is. Technology has really opened the doorway for other ways to make money. And people in their 50s are finding ways to do that, and they're enjoying it, and they're becoming entrepreneurs. People are becoming entrepreneurs that never thought about being entrepreneurs, which is pretty exciting. And Matthew and Jake, before we talk about what they need to know, that's where you guys typically come in as certified financial planners. Is there anything else you want to chime into as why in our client meetings people are wanting to do this?
Yeah, I think, as the environment overall has shifted, to your point, a lot of things can be done on the internet. And, I've heard many clients or just people in general talk about wanting to do things like drop shipping or creating like an online retail store. And sometimes, they don't even have to take on product on for themselves. They can just get it shipped elsewhere and then sell a product online. Or conversely, some clients might say, you know what, I did my 9 to 5, I worked in the corporate world and I had a successful career and I enjoyed it. But now, life is too short and I want to have a slight change, and I might open up a coffee shop or, whatever it may be. It might be a small brick and mortar place. But I've just seen, the last few years, like what Cory mentioned, I think people are realizing that life is too short. And once they get to a point in their life that work is optional, then they can make that shift and do something that they've always enjoyed doing or thought it was cool, and they want to take that chance now.
What is drop shipping?
Yeah, it's a way that you can order supplied products. So, if I want to sell an air freshener, for example, I can order it and have the manufacturer directly ship it to the customer. I don't actually have to take the product and store it at my house, for example, right? So you don't have to take control of the actual product. You can have the manufacturer that you buy it from send it to a customer.
Interesting. So you can go out there and promote these things, but you don't have thousands of air fresheners in your closet.
Exactly. It might be a little overwhelming. So
Got it. And Matthew, do you want to chime in on anything that we haven't covered yet? Maybe of why people are retiring in their 50s?
Yeah, I would say with the technology internet piece that you guys, both of you mentioned, is that more people are on social media. So they're seeing photos of people traveling, golfing on Wednesdays, spending time with family. So I think that's encouraged some people. I can't prove it, but I think social media has had a huge impact.
FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. So people are like, hey, my neighbor's brother's cousin's my age and he retired. How come I'm not retiring? And that's a good point. And we actually see those waters ripple when we do have a client retire at 50 or 55 years old. Oftentimes, Cory, you and I will get a bunch of referrals because and the person will come in and say, well, you helped Bob retire at 55. I need your help. Right? So that FOMO, I think, is real. And you're right, Matthew, social media has compounded that because, more and more of our clients are on Facebook. A tremendous amount of our clients are on Facebook and Instagram, and they're seeing those people retire. and do some of those things in their 50s. So probably most importantly, though, I want to make it clear, and we've brought up a good point to making work optional. You don't want to do this, though, without having something well planned out, because there are some major mistakes you can make that will actually do permanent damage in your retirement plan that can easily be avoidable with just proper planning, working with a fiduciary advisor. So let's talk about that, guys, switching the gear into the numbers that we crunch. Let's start off here with maybe figuring out how much is enough, right? So let's say someone comes to us at 53, what process do we take them through to make sure they're going to have enough money to last the next 40 plus years?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think fundamentally, and there's a lot of different factors that play into this, but bare bone, fundamentally, we want to understand how much do you spend per month, right? And typically the way that we do it here is that we want to match up what their net income was from, whatever their salary or business was prior, because we want to make it a seamless transition. But we want to look at, okay, what do you need to spend per month to maintain your lifestyle? And then we want to back in, okay, well, what different income sources do you already have available to you? And sometimes, depending on, again, how old they are, they might not have a pension. They might not have IRA distributions already set up. There's some ways and strategies that we can get around some of those things, but I think it's really matching up cash flow, right? Because that is going to be the biggest thing. And how you live every week is simply with dollars, right? How your cash flow that's coming in and out. And so you want to match up those things and make sure that depending on your financial plan, that you have dollars in certain buckets that you can access strategically and tax efficiently to create that income for you.
Yeah, and let's talk about that, because that's a pro tip, is that I don't want people to assume, let's say you're bringing home $10,000 a month now, you and your wife are, or spouse. Don't think that all of a sudden when you retire, you're going to be able to live off $5,000. So that's a good point, Jake. But typically where we start is we want to replace whatever your take-home pay is now with other sources of income, whether that be from your retirement savings. And we'll talk about accessibility here in a moment, but that's a good place to start. And most of our clients don't run a budget, believe it or not. So I don't want you to feel shame if you don't have a budget in place. But where we typically start is, let's see how much money are you and your spouse clearing from your employment today, and let's see what we need to do to replace that so that you can transition right into retirement and still take home the same amount of money in your checking account as you're doing today, but you don't have to go to work. Cory, is there anything we missed on that, on how much is enough?
No, it's different for everyone. That's another point that's just important to make here, is it's going to be totally different for everyone, because you guys have touched on the spending. I mean, people have drastically different lifestyles across the board. So I would just encourage people not to get hung up on any one particular number that they've heard from, again, someone's mother's brother's cousin, around what it is that they need to retire, because it's going to be different for everyone.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, there's major publications out there that say you need 2.2 million to retire. Well, how do they know? They don't know. So if you're reading something out there, or you're on the internet or Facebook, and it says this is how much you need, that you're right. You can't get that from some generic post. You need to sit down with a fiduciary that's going to run that math and those numbers for you. Matthew, have we missed anything here on how much is enough?
No, I think you covered just planning out your cash flow, additional goals, and potentially healthcare expenses as well.
Yeah, good point. You don't want to sleep on healthcare. And I've got one quick commercial I wanted to share, guys, also, is that at Falcon Wealth Advisors, we actually have something called a signature planning process. That
I was going to say this, Jake. Sorry. I almost was going to say the signature planning process is the process. Go on.
Well, good, Cory. You should see, you always do that every week. You're like,
how many should-haves?
Now you just need to say it. Just say it.
How many should-haves? Go on. Sorry.
So this is exactly what we're talking about. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see this chart that I pulled up. But if you're listening to this, I'll explain to you real quick. Is step one, it talks about introductory meeting. We do that either in person, via Zoom, or over the phone. We talk about us briefly. We talk about you mostly. And this is when we start laying that foundation for your financial plan. And this is where we answer that question: how much are you bringing home every week or every other week or every month from your income? Then step number two, we collaborate as a team, and we talk about it with the planners mostly about building out that plan. And the next step, step three, we'll deliver that plan, go over the investment strategy. And then step 4, we would start opening accounts, transferring everything over. And then step 5, it's basically maintenance mode. We're ongoing reviewing that plan and making sure that everything lines up. And as your life changes, we change it and adjust the plan. But that's where we're going with this, is that you want to make sure first that you've got how much money are you living off of today? And then let's talk about some of those expenses. You know, do you have a mortgage? Do you have a car payment? Do you need a travel goal? Health insurance, like Matthew brought up, all those are very important. Now, the number one issue, though, that I see, guys, with clients retiring in their 50s is accessibility. And so there's a rule. Anything in an IRA, you typically have to be age 59 and a half to be able to access that, or use an alternative method called a 72T, which we can get into in a little bit. But why don't you guys kick off here? What if somebody's 55, right, and they want to retire, and they come to you and they say, hey, Matthew, I'm not 59 and a half. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, for those that are 55 and they've retired the year that they turn 55, one big planning strategy we can do is called the rule of 55. What that means is for that 401k that they had through their employer plan, you can actually take distributions from that plan if you leave it at the employer without that early 10% withdrawal penalty that you have associated with IRAs if you're under age 59 and a half. So that's one big planning strategy that we implement for our clients that retire at age 55 or later.
Right. It's really good. It's very important. It's the year you turn 55. So this is what I was talking about earlier, that if you're 54 years old and it's December and you get pissed off at your boss and you quit, right, and all your money is in your 401k, well, you've just made your retirement over the next 5 years a lot more stressful than it needed to be. And so these are some of the mistakes that we help clients avoid. Jake, let's talk about that, though. Let's say somebody is 54 and they get laid off, right? But they have, let's say they have $3 million in their 401k. So they have plenty of money in this circumstance. Let's just say, for hypothetical reasons, they have enough money in there, but they can't access it. Then what are they supposed to do?
Yeah, if they can't do the Rule 55, another way that they can access those dollars without the 10% penalty is the 72T. And there is a few different calculations to calculate how much income you can take using the 72T. But it's a way that you can roll over a portion of the 401k to an IRA, elect for the 72T strategy. You do have to take substantial and equal payments for a period of 5 years or until you're age 59 and a half, whichever is longer. And I will say that strategy can be used very, very well. One caveat is that if you take more than you're supposed to, then the distributions you had taken could all get hit with the 10% penalty. So when using this strategy, I really, really would urge people to meet with a financial planner or wealth advisor and go through it together, because it is definitely a more sensitive strategy. Though we do it all the time and we've done it very successfully, it's just there could be situations that it doesn't work out so well. So I just want to make sure people don't go on it and do it themselves without, another person looking over with them.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, Jake. And again, both of these, the Rule of 55 and the 72T, those are IRS rules, right? So the good news is it doesn't matter as much what your 401k plan allows for. And again, it's not like we're making up these rules. These are how the law is stated today. And so again, though, you're right, Jake, these are very somewhat complex strategies. So you don't want to go at it alone, and you want to make sure you're working with a fiduciary also. I can't stress that enough, because there may be some brokers out there that have alternative interests or their interests aren't aligned with yours. So you want to make sure that somebody's giving you advice, that they're acting as a fiduciary, which simply means they're acting in your best interest, and they're going to do what's best for you, not necessarily what pays them the most commission. Cory, what did we miss in this gap here in this 50s here?
I don't think there's much that we missed as far as the accessibility goes. I do think, though, Jake, the last point that you made is really important about a fiduciary or a broker. And the reason I want to bring this up is, just to pose a hypothetical, if someone retires from their company at, say, age 56, and they meet with someone who's not a fiduciary who recommends that they roll all the money out of their 401k into an IRA for that broker to manage or to invest, The reality is when someone does that or makes that recommendation, that's blowing up someone's accessibility to those dollars until age 59 and a half. So that's exactly why meeting with the fiduciary to view the entire plan and the aggregate, even if that means, Jake, let's say you meet with someone and you say, look, I want you to leave $500,000 or $1 million in your 401k plan. Leave it there because you can take distributions from it without penalty over the next few years. That's what a fiduciary will do.
Right. That's good. That's a really good point, Cory. And I think the number one reason people don't retire in their 50s, guys, is health insurance, right? A lot of people come in and say, well, I got to work. Medicare doesn't kick in until 65, and my employer doesn't offer anything for retirees. So why don't we chime in a little bit on health insurance? Jake, we'll let you kick off this one. So what do you talk about? Let's say somebody's 56 years old and they come in and they've got $5 million, but they think they need to work for health insurance.
Yeah, I think I think that's a valid concern because health insurance is quite pricey nowadays, but it's not going to necessarily derail a plan on that circumstance. But we want to make sure that we have a good grasp of what their health insurance costs will be. That way we can plan for it accordingly, match up cash flow, accessibility, all those things that we talked about. But if they come to us and say, okay, I'm worried about health insurance in retirement, first, well, let's go meet with a health insurance expert, an independent health insurance expert, and get some quotes and see what's out in the marketplace. And we want to have those numbers while we plan. But then we also want to look at COBRA with their employer. They can typically use COBRA up until 18 months after leaving that employer. So we just want to weigh those two options with them, and we'll fit in whatever's best based on their financial plan.
Right. It's very good. So yes, before they retire, let's engage with that health insurance agent. Let's get some quotes, and they'll actually be able to weigh COBRA, which is typically, like you said, 18 months. Now, COBRA is not free, so normally you also have to pay for that. So let's get that COBRA quote. Let's see what the open marketplace quote is. Let's work with this health insurance professional to give them some guidance on what that'll look like. And then we simply plug it in the signature plan, right? And then, like you said, it's not always blows up the plan. I know people don't like paying for it, but again, if you want to retire at 56 and you have enough money to pay for health insurance out of pocket, that may prove to be a much more enjoyable, fulfilling 9 years versus waiting until you're 65, right? So you may be miserable. We don't want someone to be miserable at their job for 9 years just because they have to pay $1,000 a month for health insurance. I mean, so you've got to weigh both of those, and we'll plug those into the plan, which is great. And we'll show you, hey, if you do keep working till 65, this is what the plan looks like. If you retire now and go pay for health insurance out of pocket, this is what it looks like. But the key is, I would highly, highly encourage someone to get that figured out and don't roll the dice and don't buy health insurance. Because you want to talk about a way to blow up a plan is if you don't have health insurance and you need a surgery or some medical procedure done and you have to pay for it out of pocket, I mean, that really can get expensive quickly. So again, I would not encourage anyone to just roll the dice and go at it solo. We've got to make sure we get that health insurance box checked, and we got to make sure you understand exactly what you're paying for and what you get for it. Good. I know we're running up on time here. Is there anything else, guys, that we wanted to kind of our parting comments on retiring in your 50s?
Would be that it's not too early for someone to start planning. So if someone is 40 years old or 45 years old or 49 years old or 53, Jake, and they want to retire before they're 60, anybody who wants to retire in their 50s, it's not too early to start planning. And that's exactly what we do at Falcon Wealth Advisors. Jake has highlighted that Matthew and Jake, who are Jake Cross, who's with us here today, are both certified financial planners. That's exactly what the financial planning group and Jake, you and I do with clients, is to help them understand what's possible. And the reality is, the sooner that somebody starts planning, practically speaking, the more optionality and flexibility they're going to have.
Good. Thank you, Cory. That's absolutely right. Jake, what about you?
Yeah, I think just to reiterate what Cory said, just start the conversation early. We just want to make sure that, a lot of these strategies that we can incorporate are best if we can start them early, or at least plan for them early. And then that way you can get to a point where work is optional early on. And if you're having a bad week at work and you want to leave, well, we want to make sure that you can do so. And I think just having that conversation before you start to think about retiring or actually act on that is really important, because you don't want to retire without having a plan in place.
Good. And Matthew, what are your thoughts?
Yep. So you can come to us, we can help build out the financial plan, but I would say a big part after we have the plan built is figuring out what you want to do after retirement. What are you going to do in your 50s, since you have quite a bit of life left? What kind of hobbies? Do you have an encore career or different passion you want to pursue? So also figuring that out before, along with the financial plan before you retire. That way you're not just sitting on the couch watching TV.
That's good. And again, one of my pro tips for retiring in your 50s is don't feel like you need to save everything in your 401k. 401k is a great vehicle, and certainly you want to do at least enough to get a match. But if you're trying to retire in your 50s, the clients that we see that do it the most successfully have a lot of money saved up in a brokerage account, because then they don't need to worry about this rule of 55 or this 72T nearly as much. So I would save early, I would save often, and I would save in a variety of different types of accounts. A Roth IRA, for example, may make sense. A 401k may make sense, and certainly a brokerage may make sense for you. So let's talk about that. Let's get your savings, not only the amount you're saving, but in the proper bucket, so that if you want to retire in your 50s, you've got a bunch of different levers to pull from to make that transition that much more comfortable and easy for you and your family. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. I know you guys are in the office. Cory and I are working on development outside the business, so we're going to let you get back to it. Thank you all, as always, for tuning in. If you like our content, a thumbs up is greatly appreciated, and please subscribe and share it. That's the best way that we get this out in front of more people. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Jake. And of course, thank you, Cory.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Upticks. Click the subscribe button to be notified when new episodes become available. Also, be sure to visit our website, falconwealthadvisors.com, and click the Contact Us button if you'd like to meet with Jake and his team.